She said that if he'd lived for one more year, he would have been mindless.
It's an issue affecting many athletes around the world. Sometimes the warning signs are nearly impossible to tell if someone has a traumatic brain injury, but some players are donating their brains to help change that. Thousands of students all across the nation take a stand, showing their support for the Florida shooting victims by walking out of class and straight to the doors of lawmakers. That includes right here in the Inland Northwest. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan. Jane is on assignment. 17 of their fellow classmates and teachers were killed in the Florida shooting last weekend. Today, survivors of that shooting went to the state's capital fighting for stricter gun laws.
Never again! Never again!
Other nearby schools joined them in holding signs and chanting outside the Capitol building. Students also made their case to lawmakers on gun control and mental health issues.
I sat hiding in a closet, fearing for my life, for my future, when all of us are that future. If we are going to protect our future, why are we not protecting our children?
I was in a closet, locked for 4 hours with people who I would consider almost family, crying and weeping on me, begging for their lives. I understand what it's like to text my parents, "Goodbye, I might never ever get to see you again, I love you." I understand what it's like to fear for your life.
Florida lawmakers say they are examining gun laws. Yesterday, they voted down a motion to take up a bill that would ban assault rifles, a major thing students were pushing for. Today, the president hosted a listening session about the issues at the White House. Parents, students, and teachers were there, giving their ideas on preventing mass shootings. It includes people in Columbine, Sandy Hook, and the Parkland shooting.
I lost a best friend who's practically a brother. And I'm here to use my voice because I know he can't.
I'm just grateful that I'm here and we can try to work out something, maybe compromise on some solutions so this never has to, no child, no person in this world will ever have to go something through so horrific and tragic.
The president says he wants to work on a solution with concerns that he heard today. Students at the school in Florida are planning a march next month on March 24th in Washington, D.C. Students all across the country are taking a stand with them. Today, they held their own school walkouts. Students in Illinois marched in the streets against gun violence. Students in Kentucky did the same. They walked out of class for 17 minutes, 1 minute for each person killed in the Florida shooting. Other schools in Florida participated as well. One school formed a heart on a football field, holding signs supporting the victims. And in Washington, D.C., students walked to the Capitol asking for a change to gun laws.
Safer school! Safer guns! Safer school! Safer guns!
Students here in the Inland Northwest joined those protests as well. About 100 students walked out of Cheney High School to protest gun violence in schools. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley was there as they walked out and shares what those students had to say.
I'm here to speak out because I'm tired of being quiet. I'm tired of how things keep going how it used to be, and it is not working anymore.
Just as the clock struck noon, Cheney High School students decided it was time to walk out and stand up for a cause that hits close to home, or in this case, close to school.
Safer school! Safer guns!
We want safer gun laws. We know that a lot of countries do a lot of different things, a lot of things that work, and we could do that. And not only the safer gun laws, because that plays a big part, but mental health help.
In a crowd of about 100 students, one by one, they stepped into the center to share their fears and what they want to see change.
I have a little sister who goes to this school, and we have an elementary school right behind us. How does it make you feel to know that something that could happen here or that could happen there could affect your lives dramatically?
We are people with opinions and lives that are in danger.
For parents that said we can't make a difference and we will not cause change, I call nonsense.
It's a new normal to think that somebody's gonna come in and take your lives from you. You don't know what's the last thing you're gonna say to your friend or your family when you walk out of that door.
Now, students who organized the walkout at Cheney High School say they were expecting students to stay out for at least 20 minutes, or they had advertised it to say as long as you feel necessary. But it's already been an hour now and students are still outside the school building sharing their stories.
I have been crying this whole time. I am so proud of our school, and we did not think that that many people were going to partake in this.
In Cheney, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Well, the students did end up going back to class. Moses Lake High School students also walked out of class for 17 minutes this morning. About 100 of them gathered around the flagpole to honor the Florida victims. Back in 1996, you may recall, Moses Lake was the scene of a deadly shooting. A student killed a teacher and 2 other students at Frontier Middle School. While many students across the country walked out of class today, there is another date they are planning on walking out of school as well. It's on March 14th. It'll last 17 minutes, again 1 minute for each person killed in Florida. The march is sponsored by the same organization behind the Women's March. There's also a march planned for April 20th, the anniversary of the Columbine shooting. We put a call out to action to you at home the day after the Parkland shooting. We asked you to tell us what we can do to make real change in the wake of tragedy like this. So tomorrow, we will continue that conversation with a panel of people from right here in our own community. We'll be talking about school shootings, media coverage, and how to make a change. We'll be live streaming the roundtable tomorrow on the KREM 2 News Facebook page. It starts at around 10 a.m. You can also watch it at 8 a.m. on Friday on KREM 2 Morning News. In other news tonight, there was arguably no larger rallying cry during President Donald Trump's campaign than building a wall along the U.S. border with Mexico. But with so much attention focused on the southern border, we wanted to know what's being done to secure the northern border, just 90 miles from Spokane. So 230 agents work in the Spokane sector, which covers roughly 300 miles of border between the Okanagan Valley and Glacier National Park. It is a heavily wooded and rugged border that agents patrol by truck, ATV, even horseback. But as I also learned, every week agents come to Spokane, 90 miles south of the border, to check, of all things, Greyhound buses for people who are in the country illegally. The idea is essentially to catch people before they disappear into the interior of the country.
All righty, everybody gets asked the same 2 questions. They're easy questions. Of what country are you a citizen? United States. And where are you going? Wisconsin. Thanks so much.
So we recently went along with agents during one of those bus checks, and coming up new at 6 tonight, we'll take you along one of those missions and we'll look at how many people the Border Patrol apprehends each year. Again, that's coming up new at 6. The National Transportation Safety Board released a report on the train crash in Virginia last month. GOP lawmakers were on that train going to a retreat when it collided with a dump truck. Washington Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers and Idaho Representative Raul Labrador were both on board. Everyone on that train was okay, but 2 people in the truck were killed. The report says there is video showing the truck on the railroad while the crossing gates were down. The train was going around 60 miles per hour, the speed limit, when the engineer put on the emergency brake. The train ended up hitting the truck, causing it to spin, then hit a railroad signal bungalow. People who live nearby say that crossing gate malfunctions often, sometimes staying down for a long period of time when there are no trains coming. The NTSB says it is still investigating the crash. All right, bringing in Tom Sherry now, talking weather. Mostly clear and sunny today, still though very cold.
It was an absolutely beautiful morning, and we'll get another one tomorrow morning, but yeah, you're right, at night we pay the price. Take a look at some of the overnight low temperatures reported around the region this morning. The cold spot, Deer Park, -14. These are all unofficial low temperatures, but from the automated weather observation sites, these are what we saw. -4 or -4, I should say, in Coeur d'Alene, -2 in Wallace, 1 degree in Sandpoint. Coulee Dam saw an overnight low of 4 degrees. We got down to 3 here in Spokane. It's 21 degrees right now. Winds out the southeast at 6 miles an hour. You can see still some of that cold weather, or the coldest weather is actually still in the north central portions of the United States. Down in the southeast, they're in the 70s. We'll look for an overnight low, finally getting down into the low teens instead of single digits, a low of 11 expected. Partly cloudy tomorrow and a high of 30. We finally break out of the cold, dry weather with snow possibly mixing with rain on the way this weekend. We'll look for highs warming into the mid to upper 30s, and the overnight lows both those mornings, Saturday and Sunday, will only be in the 20s. So little improvement there for our overnight low temperatures.
We will take what we can get at this point. Thank you, Tom. All right, still to come tonight, traumatic brain injuries affect many athletes in contact sports.
I had no idea that the brain was like Jell-O or an egg yolk.
But it's something it's tough to tell just how much of an impact a TBI really has on a person. Researchers, though, hoping they can find a solution. That's after the break.